Good day. I'm Marty Walzer, otherwise known as Raging Owlbear on social media. And a few months ago, I talked about some alternatives to Dungeons and Dragons on a video that I did where I just kind of spun through a whole bunch of different game systems that are also really fantastic and people should check out, aside from Dungeons and Dragons. Just because Dungeons and Dragons is the big 800-pound gorilla on the block doesn't mean it's the only game in town. And it's nice to sort of stretch your legs into other systems to get a feel for what other people are doing and what other play options are out there. One I wanted to talk about tonight is an offering from Cubicle 7, and it's called the Lone Wolf Adventure Game. Now, this video is probably a little late in coming because this is pretty much out of print now, but not 100%. There's still copies out there in distribution. You can still occasionally find them. And actually, a lot of the supplements that are for it are still around and readily available. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this game system, Lone Wolf Adventure Game System, because it's just a really nice, tight little system, and it's very rules light. For those of you who haven't heard of Lone Wolf before, there was a series of books that came out in the 80s called Lone Wolf, and they were kind of like a choose your own adventure. The difference being is they actually had combat rules, a character sheet, and some other game rules that appear sort of within the beginning of the book. Really short, 5 to 10 pages of game rules and whatnot, so that you actually had a character, and then as you went through sort of the choose your own adventure style system, you can encounter creatures and actually have combats, and do other sort of skill tests and various things. So this was a real, not just a book, but a little mini game that came within a book, and there's a whole series of them, of these Lone Wolf adventure game books. And so several years ago, working with Joe Deaver, who's now sadly passed on, Cubicle 7 put out the Lone Wolf Adventure Game System to try to take all of the lore and world building that Joe Deaver had put into these books and create a game system for it, as well as a campaign setting. And it's a beautifully done game. And it's the nice thing about it, and especially if you have younger kids, is that it's extraordinarily rules light. It uses basically a D10 for everything. And as a matter of fact, harkening back to the old style books, in the books, they didn't expect people to necessarily have dice. So it had this fun little chart in the back, this random number generating table. And the whole idea is you close your eyes and you point at the page or something like that. And wherever you point, close your eyes and point the page, and wherever you point, that's the number that you would get for your thing, So that was just one fun way that you could sort of play if you didn't have a die or other way to do a random number generation. Well, to keep in that spirit, the adventure game also, it didn't come with dice, but it has this fun random number generation thing in the lid, in both the top and bottom lids of the game box, and it came with these little pogs that you flip into the lid, and then so wherever the pointer lands is the number that you selected. Just great. So obviously if you have a D10, you can just roll it, but if you didn't, they had this really fun little flip your pog into the box and see what you get. But again, so the whole game is played with this D10. It's very rules light. The character sheets are pretty simple. And actually, the box set, let me talk a little bit about the box set contents, because honestly, the original box set, which goes for about $30, if you can still find it in print, and it comes in and out every once in a while. It comes back onto Amazon, and then it goes away, and it's out of stock for a while, and then it comes back. So you just have to kind of keep an eye out for it. Their entire game system is available via PDF, though, as well on DriveThruRPG and on the Cubicle 7 website themselves. So you can still get the game in PDF format even if you can't find a physical copy. But the physical copy is brilliant because the base box set which is held upside down. The base box set comes with just these contents that are just really, really beautiful. I mean, one of the nice things is that so it has several pre-generated characters. I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. The game world itself it's basically a very black hat, white hat sort of situation. You have good guys, you have bad guys. It's very clear cut. There's like a Dark Lord, and the Dark Lord has evil servants, and you guys and your characters are the good guys. They're called the Kai Lords, which are kind of like the sort of fantasy version of Jedi. The game system does have sort of regular Joe characters like your typical soldier, stuff like that. But then you have these people called the Kai Lords who are like these monk fightery, type characters similar to like a fantasy Jedi because they have some sort of minor magical powers or psychic powers. And the whole idea in the base set is you play the Kai Lords. You and your party are a group of these elite fighters, these elite monks, and you go out and basically save the day. It's a very heroic, like I said, black hat, white hat sort of situation. But the expansion book does get into the other sort of character classes aside from the Kai Lords. Your basic scouts and bandits, and they does have a little magic system. Your sort of sorcerers, magic users, and whatnot. But the base system comes with these lovely pre-generated characters, and it's a little folio which has this really great. It's really great artwork. This is True Song. And it says, what's her story, has some background, has some sort of in character text to describe the character, so that when you pick up the pre-gen, what their motivation is, what their drive is, what their goal. And then you open up the character folio, and inside is sort of the character sheet with some explanation on these sort of wings of the character sheet. So the main part of the character sheet's right here. It's very simple. It has a few skills. She's a healing skill. It's sort of a camouflage skill, whatnot. Basic weaponry, a mace, a shield, whatnot. But it has several of these pre-generated characters. Like I said, this gal named True Song. This fellow named Moonblade. And the artwork is just beautiful. Again, these character folios. An archer named Night Fox. There's some other characters, Storm Shadow. This woman who's like a killer staff fighter as well as an archer, and such like that. So there's a variety of characters. They're diverse characters, and again, the system is great for introducing younger players into role playing games because it's a very simple sort of D10 role that basically does everything in the game. Skill tests, combat tests. And the nice thing is and just like say a D&D style game, you roll the D10 against the skill test. So you have a target value between 5 and 9. 9 being very difficult and 5 being sort of easier, typical, and then depending upon the situation, the game master might give anywhere between a +1 and a +5 bonus to the action, depending upon the character's skills or equipment or situational modifiers. So it's very easy. You have a D10, you have a target value, and you have sort of this arbitrary bonus determined by what skills you might bring to bear. And that's sort of determined by the game master. So it gives a lot of power to the game master to be a little more narrative and decide, okay, in this situation, you get a better bonus because you're well prepared, you have the right equipment, whatnot, and it's very simple because again, it's a single roll, and combat is very similar. The only difference being that you have a combat skill rating value, and then your opponents have a combat skill rating value. And the ratio between those is there's like a matrix within the rule book that basically says, this combat value versus this combat value. Okay, roll a d10, and then you look up what the result is. and a combat round isn't I hit you and then the foe hits me back. It's a single roll that determines the round of blows between the your character's PC, your PC, your character, and your foe. So you roll a single. So all the die rolling is in the hands of the players essentially for that. You roll the die. Obviously you roll high. You do more damage against your foe, and maybe they don't do much counter damage. You roll low, then you might not do very much damage or no damage to them, and they do like a counter punch back at you and hit you worth several points of damage. So it's very very again very rules light, very simple to play, very narrative, and the artwork is just really great. We have these beautiful covers. We have this interior artwork that has both sort of let me find a good example. um, they had these really nice color folios showing the characters sort of attacking the dark spawn creatures. They also have lots of these sort of black and white illustrations sprinkled throughout the rule books. And another really good example of this, like this is actually one of my favorite things. It's just a one sheeter that comes in the basic box, and it's the equipment list, and it's basically just a very simple. Hey, here are the things. Here are the weapons you can get. Here's some of the adventuring gear. It's a very very sort of simple list for the basic starter box set. It just breaks it down into the necessities. You have a backpack, you have a bedroll, you have either leather or chainmail armor, perhaps, and then you have a variety of swords, mace, axe, hammer. Really simple. It boils it down to like just a really nice, easy rules light sort of a game, and it's lovely. The world building is also excellent. It's got this a really nice map that comes with the game. Sorry, got pushed out of reach here. Here's the combat chart. So can't really see it really well on camera, but basically you have the player rating or the foe's rating across the top, and you roll your d10, and basically you just look up the cross. It might seem a little complex, but it's actually really quite easy. It's super simple combat resolution. Once you get used to the chart, you can look up the stuff very quickly. So as I was saying, the world building in the game is really excellent. It talks a little bit about the world that the players start out in. It's got this lovely map. It's got actually a separate pull-out map as well as the one that's in the book. It talks a little bit about who the Kai Lords are and the monastery they come from and their training and how they're basically training against the Dark Lord, the Dark Spawn, and the various forces of evil that are pushing against civilization essentially. So you have a very almost a Lord of the Rings-esque dichotomy where you have these lands that are dominated by the Dark Lord and whatnot, and then you have the lands that are sort of holding back the forces of darkness with the Kai Lords as sort of the peacekeepers of the land, of the generalized peacekeepers of the land. And so it's just a really nice I don't want to say it's plain vanilla. It's not plain vanilla. It's got really deep lore. It's got really nice stuff, but it's very much that sort of Western style feel to it, in the sense of there are clear good guys, there are clear bad guys. It's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be very much this is a fight of good versus evil. And that's great. You don't, everything doesn't have to be shades of gray. I mean, I know a lot of people like games with more complexity in terms of shades of gray and what's evil and what's good, and where's the moral ethical sort of line that might move back and forth. Again, this style of game is not really intended for that. You could do it. I mean, it's there. Again, it's very rules light. the system kind of gets out of the way, and you have this great lore that you can, if you want to, give it a little twist. Maybe it's not, totally black and white. You could take the Star Wars approach that the Jedi or the Kai Lords, or are have been in power for a long time, and maybe there's some sort of built-in corruption or complacency or whatnot, and so there's a lot of ways that you can kind of go, and it comes with a couple different campaigns, but you know again, there's a number of expansion books. You have the like a player's book, which is sort of the more standard characters. If you're not a Kai Lord and you're just playing some other sort of class, there's a whole book on different classes and there are different humans and humanoid races that you can play. Of course, there's a couple different monster books. This is sort of the basic, as I say, the basic menagerie, which has, it's broken up into sort of three sections: the sort of dark spawn, which are truly the evil creatures that the Dark Lord has, unleashed upon the world. And then you have like regular animals, the various animals that live in the lands, and then you have sort of the NPC style. What's a bandit? So it's a great basic bestiary, and then it has a secondary bestiary, which is more the sort of the more I don't want to say higher level, but the sort of more fantastical beasts and demons and whatnot, the sort of bigger stuff, rather than just sort of the standard monsters. And again, the nice thing, the monster stat list, the stat block, is two things: combat skill and their endurance, and that's basically it. Those are the two things that every creature has to describe how how combat would go against the PCs. And then they may have some traits that say, okay, well, they have these sort of special skills or these, but it's a very compact stat block. And then the nice thing about it actually is when you read the creature list, you open up the creature, again, really these nice color illustrations, these really lovely black and whites. I mean, but not only does it have the very simple stat block, which is like 4 lines, but then it has a whole history and lore. I mean, there's a lot of lore in the menagerie book here. It's every single monster has paragraphs of history. So like, again, stat box this long, history and other details about the creatures in terms of the lore is pages and pages versus again, small stat block. So I think you should check this out. Again, you can find this still in distribution in places. It shows up on Amazon from time to time, and the PDFs are available on DriveThruRPG as well as the Cubicle 7 website. So I absolutely, this is a great deal for $30 a box set. And the additional books are $20 to $30 depending. So they're still out there. There's copies of the game still out there. It's a really nice game. It's a great introductory tabletop RPG for kids, for the younger audience. But even if you just want something super rules light for adults, again, it's not really a kids game. This is a fully featured tabletop role playing game. It's just puts a lot of sort of narrative power into the game master's hands and the player's hands as well. The whole idea is that this is, again, sort of a heroic fantasy adventure game. And the mechanics try to stay out of the way as much as possible. You describe the situation, you say what you're going to do. But it does have, it does have sort of skills, and the Kai Lords, again, have little powers. They have sort of psychic abilities, a danger sense, or again, lots of little combat. You might have a combat. You're good against certain creatures, against undead or such whatnot. So it has like these little, I don't know, I don't want to call them feats because they're not quite like feats in Dungeons and Dragons, but sort of special skills and traits. But it's definitely worth a look. You should check it out. So that's it for Lone Wolf Adventure Game. Definitely something to check out. Another great thing that's come out of Cubicle 7, which I'm going to try to do in more detail on the next video, is Adventures in Middle Earth, which is the sort of 5th edition rendition of the One Ring RPG. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the One Ring and Adventures in Middle Earth, which are also unfortunately going out of print because the Cubicle 7 has lost the license due to a dispute with the license holder. But these books are out there. They're totally worth it. You should check them out. The One Ring is their specific RPG. This Adventures in Middle Earth is sort of the D&D 5th edition sort of translation of the One Ring. There's a player's guide and lore master handbook. Definitely worth checking out, especially if you like a Tolkien-esque campaign. Highly recommended. I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next video. So, I've been Marty Walzer, Raging Owlbear. Please like and subscribe so I can bounce up a little bit. Set your little reminder ding, subscriber ding, because I only do videos every once in a while, and so it'd be nice if you get that little ding, because again, I don't get these out weekly, unfortunately. But you should definitely, when you subscribe, set the little bell, because hey, I do have some cool videos, I think. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you at the next one.